The Falcons enter their bye week 4-6 amid a 3-game losing streak, 2-6 in their last 8 games. So I've got 5 changes I want to see Arthur Smith make coming out of the bye to save this season and try and go on some postseason run. But really quickly, I want to know if you are not giving up on this team, like the video, because right now it feels like doom and gloom. People are packing up. No one wants to put up with this team shit anymore. And I understand the frustration as a fan base seeing losing season after losing season after losing season. But you know what? This is sports, baby. So if you're not giving up, hit that thumbs up button. Now, my first change I want to see made coming out of the bye, go back to Desmond Ritter, right? Unfortunately, the Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0 comp I gave for Heinicke does not look very accurate because the Falcons are 0-2 with Heinicke starting at the helm, and with Ritter, at least they were 4-4. But look at the 2023 stats for both guys. Plenty to work on for Ritter and Heinicke. Unfortunately, Atlanta is in a spot where we can bicker and argue all we want between Ritter and Heinicke, and the sad reality is neither guy gives you all that great of a shot at winning, but there is one guy that's going to give you a better chance, and I believe that is Desmond Ritter. Why? Because once again, the biggest knock on Ritter is the turnovers, right? 13 turnovers in 8 starts. Just way too big of a number to actually have him go out there and start week after week. But if you can find a way to reduce those turnovers, he's a playable quarterback. Like, I'm going to cherry pick some stats for a moment. But again, the turnovers are bad. But if you get rid of the turnovers, weeks 1 through 7, when he started, 232 yards per game. Solid completion percentage of 65.3. So he's accurate and he's moving the ball down the field. 9 total touchdowns between his arm and his legs. 4 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter. In fact, speaking of the fourth quarter, he plays his best football in the clutch. 67.5 completion percentage, 691 yards, more yards in the fourth quarter than any other quarter this season, 2 total touchdowns, and 95 on the dot passer rating. So Desmond Ritter has shown us that he can be clutch at the end of the game. He can make big-time accurate throws down the field. He just needs to stop turning it over. And if he doesn't stop turning it over, well, he's going to be the next Nathan Peterman, where coaches are going to love him. He's going to be a good backup for a long time in this league. But ultimately, 13 turnovers is just way too big of a number. And I can see why Arthur Smith felt like he had to make a change. But you didn't get much of a boost going to Heinicke. So if you want to go back to a quarterback that moved this offense down the field more than Heinicke did, who passed for 55 yards in his last game against the Cardinals, well, go back to Ritter, and hopefully he kind of learned his lesson after taking a bit of a shellacking and a benching, and he comes back out, and he's a little bit smarter with the football, and he's not so lackadaisical with it. So pick a quarterback for me, though, Heinicke or Ritter. Who do you think should start for Atlanta next time out against the Saints? Moving on to the second bye-week change. Fix the defense. Now, this one is a little bit easier, said than done. Of course, fixing the defense has a lot of variables to it, but as a whole, this defense started off great and unfortunately has deteriorated over the last 3 games amid this losing streak. Like, you look at the Falcons defense the first 7 weeks, they were giving up less than 20 points a game. However, over this 3-game losing stretch, they are giving up nearly 30 points a game, right? Total yards allowed is up by nearly 100. Rushing yards allowed is up by 45. Takeaways are down in fewer games, but the record going from a 4-3 to an 0-3, it's just not sustainable to keep playing this way if you truly want to save your season. Now, unfortunately, Atlanta has suffered some injuries amid that 3-game losing streak, right? You lose Grady Jarrett, the first loss to the Titans, and then you lost David Onyemata, not for the season like Jarrett, but he did miss Week 10 against the Cardinals, and that loss was felt, right? You definitely felt Onyemata missing on a couple of those key plays where the Cardinals were just giving it to James Conner in his first game back from a knee injury, and he was just running all over for 5 or 6 yards at will. So getting healthy is definitely going to help, and getting used to life without Grady Jarrett is going to take some time. And hopefully coming out of the bye, they've got a better game plan as to what to do without Grady Jarrett, and we'll talk more about him later on, and they get Onyemata back healthy. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, Game Time is our great and wonderful sponsor today because they don't want Falcons fans to worry about buying tickets to the next big event, Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Now, as a Tennessee grad, unfortunately, I don't get the cheap tickets to Neyland Stadium anymore. But if you're trying to go to a college football game, or you're trying to go catch a Falcons game, or any other sporting event in your area, make sure you pay a visit to Game Time first, because you're going to get the lowest prices. So don't overspend elsewhere. Make sure you check out Game Time first. And also, Game Time loves Falcons fans so much, they're giving you guys $20 off your first purchase. So think of it this way. You're going to go to a game, go to Game Time, arrive at the venue, and Game Time is going to buy you your first drink or buy you your first hot dog or something with that $20 off you saved. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code FalconsChat for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem that code FalconsChat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Third change that we need to see coming out of the bye is trying to replace Grady Jarrett. And you can't replace Grady Jarrett, right? He is one of the more underappreciated interior defensive linemen in football. He's got a tremendous pass rush motor to him. These guys just don't walk along every single season. So losing Grady Jarrett has definitely been a big impact on this defense, specifically the run defense. Again, we go back to this 3-game losing streak Atlanta is currently on, and a big reason for that is because of the run defense. They've had 95 carries go against them for 417 yards. Defense giving up 4.3 yards a carry over the 3-game losing streak and 3 touchdowns. So when we look at Atlanta's defensive line depth chart here, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, I mean, there's going to have to be some improvements made. Like, just guys have to step up. Contavious Street, other players that were not into big-time roles earlier that are now seeing more snaps just have to make bigger opportunities of these snaps here, and they simply have to improve. There's no one walking through the door anymore to save the day for Atlanta's run defense. It's up to these guys in this locker room to figure it out and try and Band-Aid themselves the rest of the way without their leader, Jarrett. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, we are closing in on our next baby milestone, if you will. 16,400 subscribers. I want to get there before Atlanta kicks off against the Saints next week. So make sure that sub button down below. The more subs we get, the more studio space I get, and the more videos you guys get. Next change coming out of the bye, get Drake London and Kyle Pitts going. It's borderline highway. It's a war crime to be using top 10 picks on tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, and not see a bigger production and usage out of these very highly drafted players. Drake London and Kyle Pitts this season are having strong years, I would say, more so for London than Pitts. But unfortunately, they are not where we need them to be if this team is going to turn around after sitting at a 4-6 mark at the bye. Now, lately, Pitts and London have just been zeroed out of the game plan. That's a bit of a stretch, but we're just not seeing enough from London and Pitts. And there's always going to be a little bit of blame to go around, whether it's on London and Pitts, whether it's on the coaching staff. It's never truly just one person's fault. But ultimately, over 3 games, London missed one of those games, so 5 total games, if you will, between Pitts and Drake. 26 combined targets, that's just not big enough of a number. These are your playmakers, right? Now, Drake London, who I mentioned, missed one of those 3 games during the losing streak. He should be close to 100% following the bye. He played against the Cardinals, but we know in the NFL, guys do not always play at 100%. So hopefully coming out of the bye, he is as close to his 100% as possible. So what do I want to see out of London and Pitts and this coaching staff and this overall game plan? Get London going more often. Like, remember the first week of the season, didn't even touch the ball. First play of the second game, gets the ball immediately. Get Drake London involved earlier in the game. We don't see enough of Drake London in the first quarter. He's your best wide receiver. He's arguably the most talented player on this offense. Get him the ball earlier in the game. Make him a bigger part of your offense so that you're not trying to catch up in the second half. As for Kyle Pitts, he's got 4 career touchdowns. Do you want to guess where all 4 of those touchdowns took place? In the red zone. He's a mismatch. He's an absolute nightmare, right? He's way too big to be covered by a safety, but he's way too fast to be covered by a linebacker. Get him involved more in the red zone. You do not take tight ends 4th overall just to run reverse jet sweeps with your backup tight end and Jonnu Smith. Like, that just makes no sense to me. You do not do that. You get your guys like Kyle Pitts the football in the red zone. Final change coming out of the bye for Arthur Smith. I hope you grabbed a pen and paper, Art, because write this shit down. Keep feeding Bijan Robinson. I go back to the reasoning for getting Drake London and Kyle Pitts the ball more. If you want to use an 8th overall pick on a running back, and I'm going to come up here and defend that selection, you better give him a lot of usage. Because right now we're at the halfway mark of the season, and he's got just as many carries as Tyler Algier. What are we doing? Make it make sense. Now, finally, Bijan got more usage in the Cardinals game. 22 carries, which is what he had the previous 2 games combined. But he has clearly been a much more explosive, dynamic, playmaking back than Tyler Algier has been. And this is not a diss to Tyler Algier. I think he's a good running back in short yardage situations. But, Arthur, this team is in a rut. You've lost 6 out of your last 8 games, 3 in a row. The last one coming to a 1-win Cardinals team. If you want to get out of that rut, don't overthink it. Don't feel like you have to come out here with a bunch of very bizarre trick plays where Mac Hollins does a fake to Scotty Miller who throws it to Jonnu Smith. No, just get your superstars the football. They're superstars for a reason. Let them help you. You need help right now. You are facing your 3rd straight losing season. If you want to turn this season around, have a little bit of faith in your playmakers, right? Come out against the Saints with a great game plan and a great opening script that goes Robinson, Pitts, London, Robinson, London, Pitts. Like, sure, maybe don't overkill like I just did, but get your stars the ball. That's the best way to get out of a funk. Now, what changes do you guys think the Falcons should make? I've stood up here and I've rambled for how long now? 10, 12 minutes. I've taken up way too much of your time. So now it's time for you guys to be the host. Let me know down in the comment section what changes you want to see Atlanta make. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you enjoy maybe a happy Sunday for a change, because there's nothing worse than when your NFL squad loses on Sunday. It just ruins the week. When you get a bye as a bad team, you're like, all right, I'm going to watch the shit out of Red Zone, and I'm not going to have a bad day.